1 week season.
1 week season, fam. La Familia, welcome back. It is the evening of August 19th. We're coming to you in the evening rather than the morning. Wake and Snake this week is still Awake and Snake. So we're going to bring it to you live tonight with a Monday evening. Obviously, a couple weeks till the draft season kicks off, or till the NFL season kicks off. So we got to get all our drafts in right now. Got a special guest for you this week, Billy. Due to my schedule, we're having to film tonight, and he has a hockey game. So props to Stat ATL, still alive and kicking out on the hockey rink. Maybe he'll be in the Olympics in a couple of years. We'll see. But with that said, we're bringing our special guest, my main man, Hilow. Hilow, how we doing today?
What's up, dude? Got too much hype, man. I'm not special. I miss seeing you, Jam.
90 drafts deep in drafters this year. I mean, proud doesn't even begin to describe it for
me. Yeah, dude. Well, I had to take advantage of that $100 match first time deposit bonus. Use code OWS, man.
There you go. I'll throw the banner up there.
There it is. Let's go.
Perfect. Look at the chemistry. I mean, we are ready for the NFL season. We are locked in.
Yes, dude.
Good stuff. Thanks for joining. So we are drafting the $15 contest tonight, the Drafters $1,000,003. Third year they've run the contest. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Forgot to pull it up here. So I'll be drafting tonight. This is my 112th crack at this one. I maxed both the $2 ones. So full degenning and upsetting members of my family for the last 3 months. But here we are.
They'll understand.
412 drafts in. Got Amon-Ra St. Brown here. Right in the middle, we also have Discord Bestball Plus subscriber Jay Smith 695 picking out of the one slot, flying the OWS flag proudly there.
Let's go.
It's kind of nice because there was like a 2-month period where like it felt like every drafters draft you'd get in, you'd have like 3 or 4 OWS flags.
Yeah.
So it was like, and obviously a lot of the stuff I talk about, like a lot of the subscribers are trying to do like similar things. So it would get like,
dude, after this pick, I got to ask you a question.
Okay.
It's very important.
All right. Cool. I got Debo. All right.
How do you change your Abby on drafters? I still don't know.
Ooh, let's see if I can figure it out without showing my bank info or something.
Yeah, right.
See, so you go to you click on my profile, and then there's just the little, camera icon on the bottom.
Oh, okay, cool. Desktop only?
I think so. That's how I did it. You might be able to do it on mobile, but yeah, for sure on desktop, it's a couple clicks and it's right there.
Sick. All right, answering the important stuff first. Get it knocked out of the way, dude.
Yeah, there we go. All right. So obviously, I've done industry experts with you. I don't know how many of the Wake and Snakes you catch. I know you're busy rocking out the content. But basically we just kind of go through the draft, and this is less about like strategy and more about just like what's going on in the NFL and recent news and stuff. So kind of as guys come up, just kind of talk about it. I guess, the one who just went off the board here, Malik Neighbors. The Giants have been an interesting, they've had an interesting preseason, I think. What are your thoughts kind of on their situation? I guess it doesn't have to be just like Neighbors, but obviously Daniel Jones has been an interesting,
bro, he looked bad. He looked bad, but the way, so like without like pretending like we know what's going to happen this year, what I like about Neighbors is that he is seeing the schemed usage. He's seeing like a robust route tree in the preseason, which is all we can really ask for a rookie coming in the league. Like, we know he's not going to be this like, hamstrung to 5 to 8 yards down the field. He can run a like wide receiver 1 route tree right off the jump. So like that's all good. And we saw him like back shoulder over the guy, make that catch down the sideline. We've seen him, doing the nitty gritty, doing the, working the slant routes and working the underneath stuff. So like the volume on a full PPR site like Drafters, like the volume's going to be there. Can this offense score and move the football consistently? I don't know. Really wide range of outcomes because like Daniel Jones has like flashes of where he can look like a competent passer. He can look like a competent pocket presence type quarterback. And then he has stretches where like the dude is seeing ghosts. So like, I don't know, man, like there's such a wide range of outcomes. I don't mind him in full PPR. I'm underweight on underdog where it's half PPR. Are the touchdowns going to be there? I don't know. But I don't know. Even weight to slightly under maybe on Drafters, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Like you said, like some of these guys, like it's so easy. I feel like all off season, like you get hyped about different guys, and then you like,
yeah,
you get so focused on like them as the player. But like I was watching the Steelers this last weekend, and I'm just like, oh yeah, like it's the Steelers.
Ew. Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, it's Russell Wilson checking down and Arthur
Yeah.
Smith plays, and like I'm just like, I don't want to watch this.
There's one rookie who
one guy I like goes down.
There's one rookie I think that like I've gone the other way on. Like I've become more bullish on. I'm not going to name him yet, but when we get there, I'll drop his name. It's not too far. It's like round 6, 7. But yeah,
I think I know who you're going. But yeah.
I think it might surprise you. I think it's not who you're thinking.
All right. We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. But yeah, like a lot of the times we have these like grandiose ideas of what an offense can be, and we're kind of drafting to like the best case scenario, right? And then we kind of get this like wake up call a little bit in the preseason, not so much like in camp because all we're seeing is like one-on-ones with no pads. It's like, okay, yeah, like that makes sense. He's beaten whatever defensive back on his own team, but like once we start seeing a little bit of game action, I think it's more of like a wake up call of like could be the lower end of a range of outcomes, but I don't know. It's just this interesting dichotomy that is the off season.
Yeah. I'm about to pick here, and then I want to throw something at you. Well, actually, it's perfect. So Laporta just went off the board. The next two guys, I guess, well, these are kind of by my ranks. I'm going to take T. Higgins here, but so like you got Laporta there, and then Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper. Like, there's a lot of guys right now, like these like veteran type guys, not necessarily like old guys, but guys who've been around a few years that like now it's like, oh, they're hurt or they're sitting out like they've sat out a week, they've sat out 2 weeks. Like, are there any specific guys that like that you are like extra concerned about with those like injuries? I guess like Christian Kirk, Amari Cooper, like are you worried about them? Because like Kirk, I got him like at pick like 51 earlier.
Yeah. I think
he was going at like the 3-4 turn for most of the drafting season.
Yeah, the stuff I'm more like I'm not really worried about anything because by this time in the draft season, I mean, we have like 500 drafts under our belt. So it's all about kind of like that risk reward across your entire portfolio kind of profile. But there's guys that I think deserve like just a second guess or like a re-look at the range of outcomes. And it's more, I think, with the guys that have soft tissue stuff because is at a greater risk of re-injury. So like hamstring was big last off season. We saw with Cooper Kupp. He like injured his hamstring like on the first, I forget, end of OTAs or the first like camp practice, and then he re-injured it like at the end of August. So that's kind of this kind of stuff I'm kind of paying attention to. Other stuff, I think I saw Curtis Samuel today was like had a turf toe. That's something that can be like recurring. And it's much more like pain management, but like that kind of stuff is stuff that can bleed over. Like Jalen Warren even is one that picked up a hamstring, and we were talking in Discord. It's like, oh my God, the dreaded preseason hamstring strikes again. Those always just give me a little bit of pause, but like I'll finish once you make this pick. At the I want to see where you go here, dude.
I'm gonna take.
That's where I would have gone to.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Mixon, and you can finish your thought, and then I want to talk about Mixon and the Texans a bit.
Yeah. At the same time, there's guys that are slipping like a full round in 2 days or like multiple rounds in like a week. I think Hollywood Brown is a good example of that. We're probably going to see other players slip kind of 1 to 2 rounds. And we saw Jalen Warren fell a full round in 48 hours. So like that, while there is the increased risk of re-injury, there's also like this leeway that we're given for a range of outcomes, talking about like what could happen. Well, we don't really know who's going to re-injure themselves or who's gonna, I forget like what the re-injury risk was like of a hamstring injury within the first month.
I
But
think
like,
it depends on the severity and stuff, but
yeah,
also,
yeah.
like, I mean, how many times do you see it where, like, in DFS, where you play a guy and he, like, limps off with, like, a hammy in the first or second quarter, and you're like, "Oh, shoot, there it goes," but, like, sometimes, like, he comes back, like, they
Mhm.
loosen it up, the trainer's on the side doing the
Yeah,
leg thing.
it's the spray, dude. It's that
Yeah,
off
and
the
he comes
sideline
back
spray.
out, and it's like, well, like, that
Yeah.
might like, Jalen Warren, he pulls it a little like, there's no chance they're putting him back out there, so, like, they just call it a night, and they're like, "Yeah, maybe we'll see you week 1." But, like, if this was the regular season, like, who knows? So, I'm not saying for sure that's, like, his situation, but, like, these the turf toe for Curtis Samuel you talked
Yeah.
about, that's, like, more concerning, but some of these, it's like, well, yeah, if you're trying to win games in the NFL, if these guys are, like, even a little sore, you just yank them.
Yeah. And I think one of the, and this was an interesting case for me because I already had a ton of him when he got hurt. That I'm talking about DeAndre Hopkins. I already had like
Mhm,
25% DeAndre Hopkins through like 300 whatever drafts when he got
mhm,
hurt. And then it was like, okay, I'll let him fall. And he was like ADP high 60s, somewhere like in the 6th round when that happened.
mhm,
And then like I was like, okay, target range for me to wait is like, I think I put out in Discord was 85 to 95 ADP. If he's fallen in that range, I will add more. Um,
and he's at, like, 100.
and he's at like 100 now. So I'm like, oh crap. Okay. So I think I've almost sustained, I think, my like 25% DeAndre Hopkins because like I was there and I was like, okay, like I have the leeway to lower this significantly if I want to. And
Mhm,
it ended up like I'm just kind of sustaining. Like he could be ready for the regular season. There's still 2.5 weeks to go. But when he got injured, it was like a full month plus until the start of the regular season, and I think they were giving him like a 4 to 6 week time window. So like that could be an overreaction based on like what we projected him for in the regular season. So it's just balancing those things like risk reward. That's what it's all about, man.
yeah. So 2 things. First, I don't think your rookie has gone yet, am I right?
Oh, I wasn't even paying attention. He has. He went round 6. Brian Thomas.
Okay, okay,
That's a
alright,
guy
yeah,
that that's a guy that I was kind of iffy coming into after he was drafted where he went. The historically low like
yeah,
touchdown rates of his quarterback, and like we had this offense that had so many changing pieces and
mhm,
could be like um, even though like Calvin Ridley left, they brought in a lot of pieces, right? Bring in Gabe Davis, they still have
mhm.
Ingram, and so I was like kind of iffy. I was hovering around like 6% of Brian Thomas, and I wish that were um, a lot bigger earlier because now
Mhm.
he's come up multiple rounds. But he's a guy I'm trying to get overweight on right now.
Yeah, he had that one catch in the first week that was like, "Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, this guy's here. I mean, yeah, coming off like
This is
a what
why you were drafted where you were."
17,
Okay.
17
Um,
touchdown season or something in college. I don't know.
yeah, well, and that's the thing, like, I've been, like, I'm not, like, crazy high, like, on him with, like, I think I'm at, like, 11%. I'm just super
Mhm.
wide receiver heavy,
Yeah,
because of how I approach it, but, so I'm at, like, 11% or something, I think, on drafters. DraftKings might be a little bit more just because, he's fallen a little bit more there,
yeah,
but, like, I more so, like, I've been a fan of Trevor Lawrence, really, just because I feel like Gabe Davis and Brian Thomas are way better fits for Lawrence than like what Ridley was,
Yeah.
and what Zay Jones were, because they're like bigger bodies and like
Mhm.
bigger catch radius contested catches, whereas like that was Lawrence was like, I mean, you were right in the edge last year. Like he was sailing passes like
Yeah, he was playing pretty risk averse last year.
yeah. Yeah.
He kind of wasn't really tossing up many 50-50s. Like he was putting it where only his guy could get, and it was like Calvin Ridley was not getting it. Because
Mhm.
I mean, Calvin Ridley saw what, 25 red zone targets last season, something crazy.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And he caught like 3 of them or he
Yeah.
scored like 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, dude, it was a pretty widespread. So I mean, that's opportunity, right? But
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I don't know if Brian Thomas is the answer to increase Trevor Lawrence's touchdown rate, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I've been buying lately.
Yeah. So when I made the Mixon pick, so like Damian Pierce has been operating as his like main backup. And I
Yeah,
don't know
and
if you saw like
he might get
his
cut.
yeah, he might get well, and like
Yeah,
they've like run him out as like the main guy, like with the starters and stuff. And like he's got like 12 rushes and none are more than 3 yards. They're
yeah.
all from like -1 yards to 3 yards, which
We saw that last year with Damian Pierce was just a really, really poor scheme fit,
mhm.
in Houston, and we get Bobby Slowick back, so I didn't understand why that would have changed. Like,
Yeah.
an
And I
offseason where the
haven't
coaching, like,
Yeah, and
yeah,
I haven't been on him. I mean, I think in my rankings I moved him up like close to kind of where his ADP was, just because it was like, well, if he really is going to be the number 2, but I'm at the point where it's like, man, I was already like when I saw his like performances, I'm like, man, there's no way he holds on to this number 2. I think that
yeah,
they're a team. So one, I have a ton of Mixon because
yeah,
like I just think the Texans
same.
offense is going to score a ton of points, and everyone's focused on the receivers. And if he stays healthy, I mean, what's the difference really between him and like Pacheco? Like it's an
Mhm.
offense that's going to score a ton of points, and he's going to
They
be
started the draft season kind of near each other in ADP.
yeah, and they've kind of diverged.
Yeah,
So I'm really high on him, but also like they strike me as a team who like Kendre Miller for the Saints or Miles Sanders for the Panthers, some of these veterans, Khalil Herbert for the Bears, like it wouldn't shock me if they were to, um, to go sifting through the trash, so to speak, after
yeah.
final cuts.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. It also speaks to the volume that I think we should be counting on for Mixon.
Yeah, as long as he stays healthy, like
Yeah.
he's gonna tote it 20 plus. Yeah, for sure.
As long
Um,
as like 18 of those aren't on first down where everyone and their mother knows they're coming. Bobby Slowick, step it up.
right, right, yeah. Which is funny because I feel like Mixon as a player gets like a rap for his efficiency. Um, but like a lot of that had to do with like the Bengals being super predictable with their play calling. Like
Yeah.
they would
Yeah.
run it out of like the Burrow when he hurt his calf, I think last preseason. And it was what am I gonna do here? All right, I'll go ahead. I'll take Warren. Um
I like
When he
it.
hurt his calf last preseason, it forced them to run, like, everything out of shotgun, and it,
Yeah.
like, increased their rushing efficiency because before that,
It's because
they
it's
would
better.
they would only run it when they were under center, and when they
Yeah.
were in shotgun, they would never run it, so, like,
Yeah.
they were just, like, so predictable, so it's funny that now he's, like you said, the Slowick thing, like,
Yeah, and, like, that's an interesting, like, parallel to draw, I think, because Zach Taylor is probably one of I mean, we have a fairly robust, like, Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan coaching tree in the NFL now. I mean, there's, like, 13, head coaches or offensive coordinators that come from that coaching tree this year.
mhm,
Last year, it was less, it was, like, 7 or something like that, and we were harping on Zach Taylor, because he was the only one that was like remaining predictable and not using pre-snap motion and not doing the things that like all of his predecessors, like that's their offense. So yeah, we were just like, do stuff better because you're not doing it. We kept writing that up in the Edge like all seasons. Like, yeah, he's Gary Kubiak, Kyle Shanahan coaching tree, but he's not like doing Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel stuff.
Right. He's not doing the things that you would like associate with those types of guys.
He's another guy. I mean, Bobby Slowick, we saw that in his play designs, but his situational play calling was atrocious last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's fun. I believe you were talking about that heading into like their playoff game in Baltimore, because some people thought they were like, they'd waxed the Browns, I believe. And then so like people, it was like trendy, and you were kind of just like, yeah, unless Slowick changes a couple of these, I don't remember what it was, but I remember you talking about like if he doesn't change these couple things, like they're gonna get waxed.
Yeah,
and they didn't change him.
and that's what happens.
Oh, all right. I'll take Brian Robinson here. Yeah, so that's a good segue into actually first No Cap Mac threw a question in the comments. Who are some of the worst picks at ADP in these total points contests? You know, the one who I think is really is very polarizing in the fantasy community is Devon Achane. And he's a guy that I personally like. He's one of those guys where I've gotten myself in trouble sometimes by being like, I'm not like chasing this outlier in fantasy, like in my, over the last decade or so, where it's like Odell Beckham's rookie year. I was like, I'm not, he's going to come back to earth. And like, he never did. But like Achane is a guy where I at least understand it on the playoff style formats. Like on DraftKings and Underdog, it makes sense because like he could drop a 40 burger like any week and that could like be it. On drafters, like he's for sure, as long as Mostert is healthy, like splitting. And I think with Jalen Wright now in tow, like he's like a guy that, like, I think if Mostert or Achane get hurt, then Wright will like step in. And like I think the plan is like they don't want either of those guys to have to be like a full-time like bell cow type. And Wright's been pretty impressive in the preseason too. So Achane is kind of like he's the first one that stands out to me.
So I'm actually going to push back a little bit on that.
Okay.
If you look at, and I know you've done a lot of extensive research on last year's top 10. If you look at the top 10 last year, like 7 out of the 10 teams had Achane. And that was because he put up a 51 burger a week. In a cumulative points contest, like I think it's more like psychologically appealing to say I prefer guys that have a tighter range of outcomes on a weekly basis, because more like sustainable, accountable, like Jaden Daniels is the quarterback example I'll use. Extremely good floor. I doubt his weekly ceiling, and I've gone to I've gone to war on this take in multiple places. But so for me, like I'm not scared of those guys, and like even if Devon Achane misses half the season, I'm not really scared of that because he has that like 50-point game within his range of outcomes. Similar discussion at quarterback, like who is a better cumulative scoring quarterback pick? Is it a guy like Joe Burrow or is a guy like Jaden Daniels at quarterback? And I would argue that like since we have these 20 roster positions, we can make up for the fact that Joe Burrow probably has a higher quote unquote bust rate this season than Jaden Daniels. Like Jaden Daniels probably has a comparable, if not better, like weekly floor because that rushing upside. But I don't think that Jaden Daniels has like 35-point games within his range of outcomes. Whereas a guy like Joe Burrow definitely does. I mean, it would require him throwing like 5 touchdowns, but like that's he can do that. Yeah. In that offense with that personnel. I mean, if Jamar Chase rips off a 202 game, like he's well on his way to a 35 burger. So I'm not as like weary of the wide range of outcomes guys. A good example at tight end is George Kittle. Like I'll hammer some George Kittle, man, because like, yeah, he has a wide range of outcomes, but like he has a wide range of outcomes. He can score, a 40-point game. And that's kind of hard to come by at tight end. So you have to like balance that because you can't draft a George Kittle and a TJ Hawkinson on the same roster. It's very hard to do that because now you're kind of losing the layered like safety of building a floor as a whole by doing that. So like, I really, really like doing things like George Kittle and then 2 other late tight ends. I really like doing things like George Kittle and another tight end in the first 8 rounds. I'm not afraid to do that. Pair George Kittle with like a Jake Ferguson. And it's much easier to do from like, I can stomach this roster if it's on like a 0 running back build. Because now you're not sacrificing like wide receivers and stuff to do that. But I think there are ways via roster construction to make up for that wide range of outcomes from a weekly standpoint.
Yeah, I think so too. I think to me it's more the opportunity cost. Like HN last
Yeah.
year was like a
Yeah.
10th, 11th rounder. So
Yeah, for sure.
it made it like and then just like the wide receivers, like Bestball Plus subscribers will know what I'm talking about. Like if you
Yeah.
take him, you're sacrificing a top 22 wide receiver. And historically, like getting as many of those top 22 ADP wide receivers on your roster is going to help you with some paywalled stuff that I'm not going to like go deep into, but
Yeah.
like it matters. Like it can, so like, and again, Best Ball Plus subscribers, like with what I've talked about with like Christian McCaffrey. I think like if HN, I have some HN, but it's from when he was
The
more
third.
like going in this like 28 to 31 range. And
Yeah.
sometimes basically when I took him, it was at like the pick 33 or 34. So and like I said, I mean, I've been wrong on outliers before. Like, I mean, if he stays healthy and he doesn't have to be a 350 yard or 350 touch back. Like, if he stays healthy for 14 games and gets 230 touches, like, he's gonna have several like game changing games. And he is a guy that I've come. That's where like the cumulative scoring my approach is different. He's just a guy, I guess,
Yeah.
that I would say I'm higher on in the other ones.
For me, I'll answer the question just kind of with like a sweeping statement.
Yeah.
For me, it depends on like how players at different positions score points. And what I've found in my research is touchdowns are immensely important to quarterbacks and running backs. So the worst picks at ADP in these cumulative points contests are probably quarterbacks and running backs on bad offenses. And it's kind of just it. like at running back, it's volume. So like there's new metrics to measure volume. Like the new hotness is weighted opportunities, which places different weight on like red zone opportunities, receptions, or targets. And that's kind of the best measure of volume at running back is weighted opportunities. Weighted opportunities and touchdowns are the 2 most predictive metrics for running backs. At quarterback, it's fantasy points per drop back and total touchdowns. So like because those 2 are so predictive at those 2 positions, we can like almost say if you want to just shit can the quarterbacks and running backs on the bottom 10 projected offenses, like I'm okay with that. Like I think you can be profitable by just making that sweeping statement.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I'm getting ready to pick here. Sorry, I'm looking at my available options at the moment. Um, I'm gonna wait around on receiver. I'll take Hawkinson with Pitts here.
Let's go.
Yeah, so Hawkinson, obviously, since last week, since we recorded last week, we had the JJ McCarthy news drop. He's out for the season. Sam Darnold in at quarterback. I guess that's a good one to discuss, is just the Minnesota, outlook for their offense in general. I had Greg from Coach Speak Index on, and he seemed to think that Minnesota is going to be more run heavy. He was talking about the usage of, is it CJ Ham, their fullback?
Their fullback, yeah. They just re-signed him, I think, this offseason.
Yeah, so he seemed to think they'll be a little more run heavy, but obviously a lot going on there with Hawkinson. I mean, I don't know if there's been any more recent updates. He isn't likely to be ready for week 1 and could miss anywhere from 3 to 7 regular season games. So gonna miss some time, and then the Addison DUI ankle. Like he's got some self-imposed and some just fluky, or an injury. But I guess, do you have any thoughts on their offense at this point?
I think that, and I've been trying to work through this. I think it might be more beneficial to the top receivers to have consistency at quarterback this season, where they're not having a midseason lull where they're shifting gears and like having to, okay, after our week 6 bye, we have an early bye. Are we going to see JJ McCarthy after this if Sam Darnold started the season as a starter? So, I mean, like, I was around even the field JJ, a little bit overweight TJ Hawkinson because he was so low in ADP. And I had almost 0 Jordan Addison just because I was already below market on him. And I've kind of added to all of that lately, and I've added it with Sam Darnold. Like, if he's competent, if he can deliver a football, Justin Jefferson is going to make him look good. Like, he's just that freaking good at playing wide receiver. So like, I don't know, man. Like, I think it is within the range of outcomes. I want to phrase this very carefully. Like, I don't think it's good that Sam Darnold could be starting the entire year, but like, I think it could add to the upside in this offense.
Yeah. Like, they're not trying to protect McCarthy.
Yeah, like, or having to get timing down again with a new quarterback halfway through the season, and all the stuff that goes to like that connection between quarterbacks and wide receivers. Like, why is it such a big deal that Puka Nacua was eating breakfast every day last offseason with Matt Stafford? Because like that getting on the same page is a legitimate thing. So like, I don't know. I've been adding Justin Jefferson. I've been adding TJ Hawkinson, and it's been really, really easy to add Minnesota overall because everybody but Justin Jefferson has been so cheap.
Yeah. And I think, like, to add on to what you're saying there is, like, I mean, there's a non-zero chance. I would say there's a very likely chance that Darnold's actually going to perform better now, because he's not going to every week have to think about and have people talking about, go to JJ McCarthy, go with the young guy. Oh, you're 1-2 anyways. You might as well like make a change. Like,
that's a great shout.
Nobody's going to be clamoring for Nick Mullins. So for a guy like Darnold, who has got to have a little bit of a fragile psyche, from like to have some like security, like that's got to have some value in and of itself. Like, just that clarity. Like, I mean, it's been like the old cliche in the NFL for years is like, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. So like for Darnold,
there's a recent example, and I think it's the quarterback battle for the Raiders in Las Vegas. Like, we knew that they wanted a quarterback that was not going to turn the ball over. So like, look at their preseason games, and we got about 3 quarters out of each of those quarterbacks over the 2 combined games that we saw. It was like, Gardner Minshew was not being Gardner Minshew. He was out there like, I'm not going to make a mistake. Like, his last preseason game, 10 for 21 for like 95 yards. Like, this was a guy that was like, I'm not going to make mistakes. And like, I think that has to like have an effect on a player's psyche. Like, okay, I know that I can't go out there and make a mistake right now.
Right. Yeah, it's gotta, like, there's just that whole sports psychology. Like, how do you like you can't really quantify that, but like it's
Mhm.
real. Like anyone who's ever played a sport or competed knows it's real,
Yeah.
uh, for sure. Um, all right, I just took Rashad Bateman as my wide receiver 6.
I was surprised
Oh,
you passed on Jaleel there. Talk to me about that.
on what? Oh, so he's on a bad offense. He's a
Okay, cool, cool, cool. Just tie.
he's a running back on what I think is going to be a really bad offense.
Sick,
Um,
dude.
I
Nice.
guess.
Good answer.
I mean, yeah, I mean, basically, like I took receivers the first 4 rounds, then got Shakir. Kind of with the Samuel news, I almost got, I don't know if you noticed, so at pick 115, Samuel fell to 114. His
Yeah.
ADP is 90, and I was like, I thought I was going to get him, and then he got taken right before me. So then I took a couple quarterbacks and Hawkinson. So I just felt like I needed to get back on the receiver train. And Bateman's a guy who I have a decent amount of. And I mean, the Ravens are like, they're a team. I mean, I'm not very high on Derrick Henry. Again, he's a guy who could like crush me. But if I'm going to get, like if I'm gonna get beat, like getting beat by 31-year-old running backs, like I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
I
That's part of the reason I'm out on Mostert this year, to be honest.
yeah, but for the Ravens offense, like for a team that like dominated the AFC last year and at the end of the year was like, I mean, they destroyed the Dolphins, they destroyed the Niners, like they destroyed the Jags, like all on prime time.
Yeah.
Um, until the AFC Championship game, they were like the team to beat in the NFL. And now they're like, they don't really have anyone going. And I mean, I think Henry's the first one off the board, and I'm
Mhm.
like out on him. I think like the rest of their guys are all kind of values. And it's year 2 of our main man, Todd Monken. So
Yeah, let's go.
yeah, I
I
guess,
think that that offense has room to grow too. Like,
yeah.
for all they've done, they've still have some room to grow.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in agreement there.
Yeah.
All right. What do here? Here, I'll do it for the OWS faithful.
Let's go! Now
Pick
it's a
Drake.
freaking podcast. Let's go, dude.
I'll make some people happy. Hey, this is what you get. Join OWS and we will
Greg Dortch.
acquiesce.
We will deliver, Greg Dortch.
No, I mean he's been the Ravens. I'm interested in them. Bateman. I'm not as interested in Flowers, I guess, which is
Yeah.
kind of weird, but I like Bateman a lot. I really like Andrews and Likely. Like I feel like one of those two is like severely mispriced. Like if Andrews' price is right, then Likely is gonna smash his value.
Mhm.
And if Likely's price is right, then Andrews is, gonna be near the top of the tight end heap, is kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I think that's sharp. I was gonna ask you, with the personnel that they have on their roster, like, this kind of lends itself to a fairly 12 personnel,
Yes.
tight end heavy offense, right?
Yeah, that's my take for sure. And like Devontae Walker, the rookie, like he's like playing behind like a bunch of like a couple of guys I've literally not heard of. He was
Yeah.
playing behind in the preseason. So he's doesn't strike me as like a threat. Bateman obviously has like struggled to stay healthy. Yeah, I think and like if you're, I mean, and I think Monken's a pretty sharp coach, and like Harbaugh just wants to win. Like after you see like Isaiah Likely, he was terrific down the stretch last year. He was tight end 5 over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah, he helped you win some money, bro.
He sure did. So him, I mean, when you have him and physically, like he looks the part. So like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you throw him and Andrews out there? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty in on them. The Cardinals are a team that uh, have you come around at all on Arizona?
No.
I know you were down
I'm
on
below
it early.
consensus.
What's that?
I'm below consensus.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It'll be um there'll be victory laps one way or the other, right?
Yeah. I'm above consensus on Greg Dortch.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you've been talking him up. He's a guy that I have not historically, he's not a guy I would like come around on, but
Yeah.
it's
What, you
hard.
don't like 5'8" hamsters, dude? Come on.
Yeah. Well, and like he doesn't like have like the physical profile really or the like the
I'll talk about Dortch a little while you make this pick.
yeah, you go.
So Greg Dortch is a guy that can separate within the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. That's always been his his not claim to fame, but like that he does that extremely well. He can separate within the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So like against man coverage, that is huge. And that kind of shows in his metrics. I mean, last season, you look at his metrics against man coverage, he was in the top 24 in fantasy points per route run. Like this dude was wrecking man coverage. Yes, like the league is not playing a lot of man coverage anymore, down to 24% last year. Extremely cover 3 heavy league, which lends itself a little bit more to first read targets. My opinion is Greg Dortch can like hold his own if given even like a standard for a slot guy, like 60 to 65% snap rate. If he's on the field in 11, like he can be a first read target. And that's kind of what we're looking for out of a guy that has shown that he can be a first read target and earn targets against man and separate within the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. So like you look at like even safeties and like nickel corners who are usually not like 6'2", 6'3", and 200 pounds. They're usually like 5'11", 6 foot, 185. Like these are slender guys, quicker guys. Even against that, he is performing when he's put on man against that kind of archetype. You talk about like in cover 3 where he's running behind linebackers and in front of safeties, like he can do some damage with the ball in his hands. It's purely a matter of, is Greg Dortch going to be on the field consistently out of 11? And I think the answer is yes.
It's certainly everything out of, I mean, because they're not being quiet either about like how much they like this guy. Like they're being pretty vocal about like they're high on him and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I'm with you.
And like he doesn't have to play on the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have to see like press coverage. That's going to be Wilson is going to be like the X type guy on the line of scrimmage most of the season. I think. I don't think they're going to put Marvin Harrison like on the line of scrimmage. That would it'd be like putting Jamar Chase like
they
on the
might
line of
move him
scrimmage
around or whatever, but like
yeah.
you know, and taking that a step further, like getting into like how when we talk about when we do write our NFL Edge games up, like if you're an opposing defense, like you're spending your whole week like Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride are the guys that you're thinking like these guys could like totally dust us. So you know, we'll give Dortch his 5 for 70 and maybe he scores a touchdown. Well, you know, if he's consistently delivering lines like that, you know, you're in pretty good business. So I just took Jordan Whittington, the trendy riser for the Rams.
But
so
is he eating breakfast with Stafford? Damn it, I have to know.
We still don't know his dietary habits.
Yeah,
dude. Our 1 week season, our research team is thoroughly searching through the Rams records. They're trying to hack into their team their team database to figure out who's ordering what when. But nothing yet. We'll keep the listeners posted. So yeah, I mean, are you buying it at all?
I've started to take some shots. I mean, is he in the 17th round on drafters now? I mean, I did a draft today earlier and I didn't realize.
I reached on him here. I think his ADP is like 210 or something.
Okay, so he's like 19th.
So I took him. Yeah. He probably would have been there at the next one, but I took him really just, you know, for the bit. So so we could talk about him.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like in my mind, I'm coming from underdog 2 drafters, right? So like I view those last 2 rounds a little bit differently than I think somebody who has, like, started their journey in best ball on Drafters, or DraftKings because it's 20 rounds as well. Those are like a super luxury to me, like those additional 2
Mhm.
rounds. So, like, I can fix a lot of, like, roster construction holes or I don't want to call it errors, but like things that I like positions that I have that I know need some help. I can fix it with those last 2 rounds. And I'm not worried about like wonky roster constructions because I'm just like, oh, these are bonus rounds. Like I can do some wonky shit with this. Um,
Mhm.
so like to me, like Whittington, I've been taking shots in the 18th round on underdog and rounds 19 and 20 on drafters where they're kind of just like a bonus in my mind.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I took yeah, for me, I've been taking, like, Demarcus Robinson, I had taken a decent amount of,
Yeah, I
throughout
had a
the draft
ton.
process, and he's a guy who, like, fairly high on, like, he's like, you look at how he ended last season, like, this is drafters full PPR, so, like, weeks
Mhm.
13 through 17, 5 straight weeks of at least 13 PPR points, hit 20 one of the weeks, like, for a guy that was going around pick 170, for base 170 to 180 for basically the whole draft season, like, that's been hard to, like, walk away from, but then, like, he also, like, a year ago was, like, a practice squad guy, like, he wasn't, like,
Yeah.
suiting up some weeks. So, like, I don't know, like, Whittington and then it's also becomes, like, for me with Whittington, like, he played behind Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy at Texas, so it's like,
Yeah.
is this guy just, like, really, really good and nobody really knew about him and gave him a shot? Like, and I guess with the way Stafford can be like a QB whisperer, he's a guy where these last couple weeks, I'm just gonna, like, on rosters where I still need a receiver to him and probably, like, Jalen Nailor for the Vikings.
Yeah, so that's another guy, and I'll add to that is, like, when we were and I had, like, 40% Demarcus Robinson at one point, but when I was doing that, it was, like, round 18. Like, he was my
Mhm,
last pick, on underdog, and he was, like, 18th, 19th round on drafters. So, like, now,
mhm,
I mean, look at where he went tonight. It was the round 14.
yeah,
Um, that's not as big a deal, like, as a player going from, like, the 10th round to the 6th round, but, like, it's still a
mhm,
meaningful ADP jump. Um, and I think, like, to your point of, like, the player my mindset in these bonus rounds and even, like, we'll say rounds 14 to 18 on underdog and rounds, like, even 14 to 20 on drafters, these are, like, bonus rounds in my mind. So, like, how am I approaching those is, like, I'm not playing it safe with like Treylon Burks or
mhm,
like I'm looking for the guy who can give me a shot to win a contest. So
right,
like Naylor, Whittington, um, like even a guy like this is a little bit more of a long shot, but like a guy like Darius Slayton who has like at least a downfield role
mhm,
and a relatively secure role at that. Um, other guys, like running back Justice Hill, love it. I've been
yeah,
hammering him. The Chiefs, who you took, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like those guys are way more beneficial to us if something
yeah,
happens than a guy like who went right after Clyde Edwards-Helaire in Alexander Madison. So, like, what's the best case scenario for Alexander Madison? Is he turns into like an 18 weekly touch player on an offense bottom 10 in expected scoring. Like that doesn't do
right,
anything for you. Like, what's the best case scenario for Justice Hill is Derrick Henry goes down in week 1 and they have nobody else behind him who's ready
mhm,
to enter because Keaton Mitchell is 10 weeks away from hitting the field. So it's like, okay, what his best case scenario is he sees 18 running back carries a week on a top 3 offense. Like that's a
mhm,
little bit more meaningful um, direct comparison to a guy like Alexander Madison. So like my mindset is like I'm looking for guys that can be difference makers. And like can Whittington be a difference maker? I don't know. Like he's probably the first wide receiver to enter the starting offense if one of the 3 guys goes down in front of him.
right,
So that's I mean there could be something there. I don't know. Like But I think you buy into the scheme, you buy into an offense that led the league in 11 personnel. You buy into an offense that's projected to be the 12th highest scoring offense. So all that stuff matters a little bit more to me than like, oh, Alexander Madison is splitting carries with Zamir White. It's like, okay, cool.
Yeah. I'm gonna take one more somewhat upside and take Ray McLeod.
Ray.
What are your thoughts on him and I guess the Atlanta offense?
Yeah, I mean he's going to be a starter in 11. I think that is fairly evident at this point. What that means, I don't know, but we expect Atlanta to be more of a competent all-around offense this year than we saw last year. So I don't hate it. I think what are we looking for rounds 14 to 20, like I said earlier? Like there can be guys in there, like Greg Dortch is a good example. There can be guys in there that like their spike week is 15 to 20 points, right? Kind of DeMarcus Robinson, what you just showed last season at the end of the year, what he did. Like that's okay. I also want to like maybe limit myself to like one or two of those guys in that range. I'm not just drafting all the guys in that 5-round window or 7-round window that are like their upside is 15 to 20 points. Like we need to mix in those like upside guys. So I'm okay taking Ray McLeod. Like he's never going to be a guy who has 30-point ceiling ever. Like if all three of the primary skill position players ahead of him on the depth chart like get in a scootering accident, like he will never be like a driving force in an offense, right? So his ceiling is relatively capped, but like in the right build where you know bye weeks or injury to a guy and you took in the 7th round, like it can contribute, right? So you just don't want to make like all of your picks like in the back half of the draft that.
Yeah, and I don't like giving away like too much, like I said, like paywall type stuff, but like so like him, like part of the reason I ended up going that direction was because I have Pitts. So I kind of felt like there isn't really like a second like big receiving threat tight end for the Falcons. So like, two things. Like I mean, we've seen Kirk Cousins, what he can do. Like he's not gonna run. He didn't run before, and now he tore his Achilles. So like
he's really not going to.
So like kind of my thought is like, well, and like even just when he was on the Vikings, like he made KJ Osborne, like he gave KJ Osborne some spike weeks as the third receiver. So like I think that there's like he has some of that potential, and I liked pairing him with Pitts as like I don't want to say like insurance policy, but like and they could spike together like if the Falcons have a big week. But like specifically, I like taking a guy like McLeod on a roster where I've already got another pass catcher from his team.
Yeah. There's I'm going to pop this on the screen real quick.
Yeah.
This is a good question. These are guys that are okay. There's like an archetype that I kind of like here late. It's guys that are athletic that can work downfield. So Malik Washington and Jalen McMillan are two good names that kind of fit that archetype. Malik Washington, fast as hell. Jalen McMillan, held his own in college playing against some really top-notch wide receivers. He can work that Z-type wide receiver role. And why is that? Is because those are like the per target upside type routes. Running the 7 to 9 routes is big. And that's why like Darius Slayton kind of falls in that bucket for me. Is like, I mean, there could be a week where he, pops for like a Rashid Shaheed line from last year, like a 3 for
he had like a 44-yard catch in one of their games.
Yeah. He was tackled at the 1, so it would have been a lot different if he would have gotten in preseason too. It's like, so like those guys can pop for like a 3 for 120 and 1 type line, and like that's meaningful in the last couple of rounds of drafts. So like, like Malik Washington is a good one. Jalen McMillan is a good one. He's come up in ADP recently. Darius Slayton, okay. Trey Tucker is an interesting one. Probably not, because he would like his best case scenario is like 3rd or 4th option on the offense, just based on his archetype. And then Calvin Austin, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on him?
I told you how I feel about the Steelers.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Same. I
Like
wasn't gonna.
it's a classic case of like I like the player, like, and I think like
Yeah.
he'll make some plays this year where you're like, wow, like what a great play. Like he's gonna have a game where he has like a 24-yard catch on the first drive, and then they
And
like
then
give him an end
nothing.
around and he gets like 9 yards, and you know, and I know like some OWS people are like very high on him and they're gonna be all excited, and then he's gonna get like 2 more targets and 1 more rush the rest of the game.
Yeah.
He's gonna end up with like 7 or 8 points. It's gonna be like, yeah, we can see he's like a good player, but like I don't know that that's ever gonna like that's gonna turn into anything. I feel like so two things from that question. One, I feel like last year with Puka and Kyron, I feel like everyone is just like spoiled and they're like
We're a little jaded.
yeah,
Yeah.
like the expectations like of what a lot of people think like, oh, maybe this guy could be like it's like no, like it's incredibly rare for to have even one player finish top 5 at their position being drafted like that late, let alone to have two and then they were both on the same team. Like it was just like it was wild. But then two, kind of segued into one other piece of news to talk about the Raiders named Gardner Minshew, the starting quarterback. Does that have any impact at all on your outlook for? I'm more thinking like the rest of their offensive skill players because
Yeah.
there's a lot of names there, right? Like for a team that, and I know you talked about earlier in the offseason, like, I mean, they're like bottom 5 in the league in projected points scored, right?
Yeah.
So like, does Minshew move the needle at all for you? Minshew, do you have Minshew mania? Are you just going to take all the Brock Bowers now?
I was under, or my mindset was that Minshew gave this offense the best upside for the remaining skill position players. We know that he is, and I guess I don't want to like break down the entire thing in front of the paywall, but um, he is able to be a 1-2 read quarterback.
Yeah.
He is able to work through a progression enough to be like a functioning NFL quarterback. And when you talk about this offense that like suddenly has some legitimate, like we'll say a top 3 pass catching core in Devontae Adams and Jacoby Myers, and then Brock Bowers, not counting like the running back room and the other tight ends, but those 3 like they can create some mismatch problems. I don't think that this offense is going to do the best job at maximizing that upside. I think, based on my research, that they are going to be a little bit more, let's get these guys in one-on-one and make them win, not like let's do schematic things to get them in space and then let them win.
You're not
And that's a
inspired by Luke Getsy?
no, not really. He finally actually showed me something last year that like I was kind of waiting for. And that was like he was actually building to the strengths of his quarterback. Like we finally saw him like dialing up unique stuff that Justin Fields could do and not a lot of other people could do. But no, I'm not necessarily, I don't love his offense. But do I think that Gardner Minshew gives a better chance at like top 50% range of outcomes for those 3 guys? Probably over Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell is much more of a one read and then, oh shit, quarterback, where like one read and then I'm looking to escape. That's not really sustainable at the NFL level. And I think we've seen that where a guy like Daniel Jones, he is a one read and oh shit quarterback.
He can at least
So
run.
he can, yeah. So that's, but I mean, Aiden O'Connell was that coming into the league. You
Yeah.
look at his college tape, and he was kind of like that one read, oh shit type quarterback. There are quarterbacks who have really, really excelled at that, like, but they're not one read and oh shit. It's like Patrick Mahomes is like, I've gone through 3-4 progressions, and now it's oh shit time. Now I'm going to extend the play, and my eyes are still downfield, and I'm still looking for a behind the.
And I have the athleticism
like,
and arm to make something crazy happen.
yeah. Like Caleb Williams is a progression and then oh shit quarterback. The shit that he was doing in preseason, man. Oh my God. That dude is going to be something special. But yeah, that's kind of like who Aiden O'Connell is. So Gardner Minshew is able to at least make it through like second and then third progressions at an above average rate. And I think that's why he's stuck around as a backup quarterback in the league, is because he can function in an offense and deliver a football. And he is okay. We'll say average to slightly below average at diagnosing defense. And if you can get through like 1, 2, 3 progressions, and deliver a football on time where it needs to be, like you can be an average NFL quarterback. I don't see that with Aiden O'Connell. I see that with Gardner Minshew. So I think that's at least a little bit more beneficial to his pass catchers. Whether or not this offense like becomes a middle of the pack offense instead of a bottom 5 offense, probably not. It's the identity of this team with Pierce at head coach is we are going to smash mouth better than you. And it's like, that probably doesn't breed. They're going to go out and lean forward in the straps on offense.
Yeah. I think, I'm with you. I think they could become like in the 16 to 20 range offense, like in yardage. But like, I don't think they're going to always translate that into points. And Minshew, like we saw it with the Colts, like he cost them a couple games with turnovers. And that could happen with the Raiders, and Pierce could get pissed and bench him too. So it'll be interesting. But we're a little over an hour now. We got the draft in, got some good discussion. I felt like we hit on a lot of the obviously you could do like 6 hours at this time of year on all the stuff that's going on, but I think we touched on some good stuff, and we'll touch on the rest of it behind the paywall with our Bestball Plus subscribers this week on our training sessions. So any last shouts before we go?
No, man. Thanks for having me on. This was fun, dude.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to everyone for watching and joining us. We will see you. Where will we see you? Sorry, it's late. We'll see you on Twitter. We'll see you in Discord. We will see you on the draft rooms. We will see you at the top of the leaderboards. Thank you and good night.